Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and everyone out there, how you doing? I hope that you're doing well and you are ready for the program. Today on the show, we have a full hour of computer and technology news, and of course, be sure to check out everything at computeramerica.com, including the show notes. If you're listening to us live on IRN, perfect. If not, you can check us out wherever podcasts are heard. That's the second best place to hear us. The first is, of course, IRN. And hey, we also have a video portion if you like to watch us and not just listen to us. Where we're gonna, kind of have the news stories up and things like that. It's, it's always a fun time. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and just say, everyone, welcome into the show. Hopefully, you are having a great day, and let's go ahead and get started. So, computer and technology news, and that is, of course, brought to you by Computer America. Which, there we go. Yeah, we're good. Oh yeah, we're good. So, everyone, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and get started. So a couple of privacy things. There's a huge story that we should probably get to first and foremost. Let's go ahead and talk about this. So this is probably the biggest story of the day. And it has to do with privacy. Unfortunately for everyone out there who's using Facebook, you are part of this. So it's only going to affect a mere 2 billion of you. But so this is the first one, and let's see. All right, this one, and it looks like the number has actually gone up since this was first reported. Facebook, they have exposed. Check this out. Not just you, not just me, not just themselves, but they have exposed 419 million Facebook users' phone numbers. They were reportedly found sitting online in a file where anybody could have found them. And I guess a master list with over 400 million phone numbers is going to get someone's attention. So this is coming to us from Business Insider. You can see it up there on the video portion. And of course, phone numbers linked to as many as 419 million Facebook accounts were recently found online on a server that was not protected by a password, and that's according to TechCrunch report on Wednesday. And so, this is obviously a huge lapse in privacy. And actually, we're going to go ahead and, because TechCrunch is a great publication, we're going to go ahead and move on over to the TechCrunch article. This article was made by Zach Whitaker. Hundreds of millions of phone numbers linked to Facebook accounts have been found online. The exposed server contained more than 419 million records over several databases on users across geography. So if you're hoping that this is only maybe in maybe only in America or only in Europe or only in India, no such luck. They said that including 133 million records on US-based Facebook users, 18 million in the UK, and another 50 million on users in Vietnam. So, and of course, just the numbers that they kind of listed there, that's only about 200 million. That's only half of the users that were actually compromised. The other half, of course, being in other locations. They said that because the server was not protected by a password, anyone can find and access the database. And of course, finding that database is something that would normally be kind of hard to do, but there are, much like Google uses web crawlers to categorize and keep track of everything, there are other programs out there that simply go through and find all of the possible databases and files and things like that and just categorize them. And hey, you can find this with as simple as a search if you know where to look. They said that each record contained a unique Facebook ID and the phone number listed on the account. A user's Facebook ID is typically a long, unique, and public number associated with the account, which can be easily used to discern an account's username. So obviously the ID, and if you're watching the video portion here, they have an example of the data that they have here, where it's the document, it's the ID, and it looks something like, 5D5EB166B4C, da-da-da-da-da. There's a lot more. They have the phone number, which is right there in plain text. They have the user ID, which, hey, you can find again. Birthday sometimes are listed, the country, the gender, and when it was actually last updated, for record-keeping purposes. So, with that being said, they verified a number of records in the database by matching a known Facebook user's phone number against their listed Facebook ID. We also checked other records by matching phone numbers against Facebook's own password reset feature, which can be used to partially reveal a user's phone number linked to the account, which, for those of you who have gone through the password reset feature, it looks something like we're going to send a text or a message to the phone number ending in, 1234 or something like that. So they're able to not actually reset, and not, even as journalists, they don't want to actually compromise anyone's, they don't want to compromise anyone's Facebook account, but they still want to do their due diligence and check. So that's how they did it without actually accessing anyone's accounts. Now, this is the latest security lapse involving Facebook data over a string of incidents since the Cambridge Analytica scandal, which saw more than 80 million profiles scraped to help identify swing voters in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. So this is obviously going to be right up there with the likes of Cambridge Analytica and, of course, anything more. And actually more so because Cambridge Analytica was, Facebook using Facebook's tools to gather information on Facebook users. It was a bad use and really just something that, in hindsight, we know that we shouldn't have allowed happen, but it was completely within the realm of what Facebook does. This, not so much. This is a lack of security. This is a lack of password. And really, this is how we hear about more data breaches than anything else. It's not about these super sleuths who, hack into the mainframe and blah, blah, blah. No, it's usually someone puts data somewhere and it's not properly encrypted, it's not protected, and like this one, it's sitting somewhere out in the open. And if you know where to look, if you know where to find the repositories, hey, you are going to be in for a lot of information. So this latest incident exposed millions of users' phone numbers just from their Facebook IDs, putting them at risk for spam calls and SIM swapping attacks. If you don't know what a SIM swapping attack is, that's where you essentially transfer the phone number to a new SIM card, put the SIM card in a phone, and all of your contacts, all of your data, all of your accounts, all of your passwords, any linked credit cards and things like that would automatically be swapped over, and you could have all of your data stolen off of your cell phone. And of course, spam call, with 420 million exposed phone numbers, hey, if it's in plain text, that's a whole huge list of phone numbers that they can now access and very easily put into their system. Now, they said with someone else's phone number, an attacker can force reset the password on any internet account associated with that number. There you go. A security researcher and member of the GDI Foundation found the database and contacted TechCrunch after he was able to find the owner. After a review of the data, neither could we, after he was unable to find the owner, but after we contacted the web host, the database was pulled offline, which is exactly what should happen. It's just, it should be before anyone actually found it. He said that this data set is old and appears to have information obtained before we made changes last year and this is, by the way, a spokesperson for Facebook, saying that this data set is old and appears to have information obtained before we made changes last year to remove people's ability to find others using their phone numbers. The data set has been taken down, and we have seen no evidence that Facebook accounts were compromised. And of course, the fact that this was found by a security researcher, as far as we know, is a good thing, because as they said, the security researcher and TechCrunch, they alerted the proper people, they pulled it offline, and all these records were safely, taken down. But if for some reason, if somehow, instead of the security researcher, someone else with nefarious purposes were able to get their hands on it before they accessed it, then that information is still out there, even though it's been taken down. And when they say that no evidence that Facebook accounts were compromised, like they said, if you have all the information there, it wouldn't be too hard to get a lot closer to compromising Facebook accounts with the information provided. Now, the latest data exposure is the most recent example of data stored online and publicly without a password. Although often tied to human error rather than a malicious breach, data exposures nevertheless represent an emerging security problem. So, there you go. And that was, again, kind of one of the biggest stories of the day. And the fact that, Facebook, hopefully they got it before anyone else did, and they were able to take it down before anyone else really noticed. But 419 million users their data was stored online without a password. Just not a good look for Facebook. And really, it's not even like this is the thing that's going to really put Facebook under. I mean, 400 million users, that's 25% of their user base. 400 million users, that's a big deal, but it's not going to really affect them too much. What it's going to do is just be another example, just essentially throw it on the pile. It's going to be another instance that we can point to and say, Facebook isn't the best when it comes to securing your data. Now, we have a couple of these, and if you thought Facebook was alone in this, check this one out. How about we discuss GPS? GPS is a great tool. I mean, I know really our society runs on it. The ability to pull out your phone, know exactly where you are, and be able to really pinpoint not just your location, but where you're going, where you need to go, what street you need to go on, so on and so forth. GPS is a great thing. The problem is that, even though we like tracking ourselves and we like telling ourselves where to go, we definitely don't want others tracking us. And that's where this article from ZDNet comes in, saying that 600,000 GPS trackers were left exposed online with a default password of, can you guess? And it's not baseball, and it's not football. That's right. It's 123456. Because odds are you needed a 6-digit password to, make a password. Now, a default password is a danger for customers, but also for the vendor itself. This is by Catalin Simpanu. Hopefully I said that right. And this is again from ZDNet. At least 600,000 GPS trackers manufactured by a Chinese company are using the same default password of 123456. And that's what security researchers from a Czech cybersecurity firm, Avast, great security, disclosed today. And really, before we even go any further, I'm so not shocked. I am so not shocked. The Chinese make a lot of Internet of Things. when it comes to Internet of Things devices, IoT devices, when it comes to webcams, routers, GPS trackers, when it comes to smartphones, modems, so on and so forth, anything really connected to the internet, which makes it an IoT device, anything connected to the internet, you need that default password to log into the device and, mess with the settings or even access, let's say, a camera feed or the data of whatever the device is tracking. And China is notorious for really just having very weak out-of-the-box security because, hey, it's just not really a priority to them. If you buy one of the more, well-known, reputable, take things like Netgear or Linksys or, so on and so forth, the out-of-the-box security is going to be much, much better than inserts one of dozens or hundreds of Chinese manufacturers here. And don't get me wrong, their products are going to be cheaper and they'll probably get the job done, but they're not going to be as secure. Whenever we hear about these massive botnets that involve IoT devices, including, webcams and thermostats and things like that, generally it's because of exactly this kind of scenario where a single manufacturer can make hundreds of millions or tens of millions of IoT devices, put on a simple, either no password or very, very simple default password, and suddenly someone writes a very small script that's able to go and find these devices on any network, insert the default credentials because, hey, no offense, as consumers, we don't really change defaults all that much. We should. Oh, we definitely should. It's just we're lazy. And with a very, very simple script, they're able to go in, access, and take over these devices very, very easily. Now, they said that, however, as their research advanced, Avast said that the issues also impacted over 30 other models of GPS trackers, all manufactured by the same vendor, and some even sold as white label products, bearing the logos of other companies. There you go. And by the way, if you're looking for which GPS device had these problems, you can look at the T8 Mini, a GPS tracker manufactured by Shenzhen i365 Tech, a Chinese IoT device. And of course, as they said, it's going to be under 30 different models within Shenzhen i365 Tech, and hey, even some from other manufacturers. So they said that the code was sequential, while the password was the same for all devices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not a good one. That means that a hacker could launch automated attacks against the cloud server by going through all the user IDs one by one and using the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 password, taking over users' accounts. And like they said, the user IDs were were the same code and they were sequential. So all you have to do is just add one to the end of each, or add one to each ID, and suddenly you are attacking a new device. So while users can change the default after they log into their accounts for the first time, Avast said that during a scan of over 4 million user IDs, it found that more than 600,000 accounts were still using the default password. Which, honestly, good job, everyone. 600,000 out of 4 million. What does that make? Something like, I should know this. Something to the tune of like 1 out of every 7 did not change their password, but that means that 6 out of 7 of you did. Very, very good job. So with that being said, it's getting into the impact of what this says. They said that the Chinese company has left itself in danger. Researchers explained that the accounts on the cloud service are created as soon as the GPS trackers are manufactured. They said that a malicious competitor could hijack these accounts before the devices are sold and change their passwords, effectively locking accounts and creating customer support problems for i365 Tech and its resellers later down the road. Which would actually be kind of funny, considering that you could then go and change passwords for accounts that don't even exist yet. And yeah, like they said, every single person, if they sold 4 million devices, that'd be 4 million phone calls that they would have to field. Not easy. So they said, unfortunately for everyone, the issue persists to this day, as Shenzhen i365 Tech did not respond to emails when the company tried to warn the vendor. They said that similar attempts were made by ZDNet's sister site CNET and didn't succeed either, which you should really jump on this. But I think we're going to go ahead and leave that one there. Just know that if you have one of these devices, and I'm sure you could look up, if the manufacturer deals with Shenzhen i365 tech, then you might want to make sure and change your default password, although I would give that warning to anyone and everyone anyways. Always, always, always change your default password, and do not change it to football1 or it's a secret or password1 or any of those other that just make the list every single year. Don't do that. Don't name it Avengers 1 or Marvel 1 or anything like that. Make it long, make it complex, and if you're too lazy to make it long and complex, get a password manager. That way, you just have to have the one long, complex password, and it handles everything else on its own. So there you go. Story number 2, there you go. Not a good day for data, not a good day for privacy. And actually, I think we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and just keep going at it, because we have 2 more stories. This should take us to the middle of the show, and it's right up the same alley. Although this time, it's Google. And, well, Google may be in a little hot water with the Irish regulators. I don't know. I've never messed with them, but probably not fun. Google has been accused of secretly feeding personal data to advertisers, and everyone in the crowd is shocked. I know. Calm down. But there's more. Hear me out. Now, that being said, Google is secretly using hidden web pages that feed personal data of its users to advertisers, undermining its own policies and circumventing EU privacy regulators and regulations that require consent and transparency, according to one of its smaller rivals. New evidence submitted to an investigation by the Data Protection Commissioner, which oversees Google's European business, accused the U.S. tech company of exploiting personal data without sufficient control or concern over data protection. I'm sure everyone out there knows about the GDPR and all that we are still dealing with when it comes to the new regulations set forward by that data protection, and this looks to be kind of circumventing that. So the regulator is investigating whether Google uses sensitive data, such as the race, health, and political leaning of its users to target ads, which is pretty interesting because, kind of speaking for myself, I don't readily recall myself ever actually putting in my ethnicity or my political leaning anywhere online. But I guess they're doing it, either they're discerning it themselves or they're able to scan other parts of their data. But there we go. In his evidence, Chief Policy Officer of the niche web browser Brave said that he had discovered the secret web pages as he tried to monitor how his data was being traded on Google's advertising exchange, the business formerly known as DoubleClick. The exchange, now called Authorized Buyers, is the world's largest real-time advertising auction house, selling display space on websites across the internet. And by the way, there you go. And for those of you who don't know about Brave, because they said that this data came from really Chief Policy Officer, but at this point I would also call him a security researcher. Chief of Brave. Brave is a browser that we've talked about here on the show before that is very invested in keeping your data safe. So you can see why he'd be interested in that. Now, they said that Mr. Ryan found that Google had labeled him with an identifying tracker that had fed to third-party companies that logged onto a hidden web page. The page showed no content, but had a unique address that linked to Mr. Ryan's browsing activity. Using the tracker from Google, which is based on the user's location and time of browsing, companies could match their profiles of Mr. Ryan and his web browser behavior with profiles from other companies to target him with ads. So if you're wondering how companies track you, and this is actually pretty new information to me, very, very interesting. If you're wondering, it's not just about a cookie that's embedded on your browser or how they're actually tracking you. If you have blockers and things like that, because this seems to be in response to ad blockers, add-ons and extensions that would prevent the traditional way of tracking you from happening. They're able to essentially give you an address, like they said, based on your location and time of day. And because those are unique, even to a particular user, even if you log in from the same computer every single day, the date's going to change. Even if the location doesn't, and even if two people from the same location are kind of using the same computer, the time of day will transition as well. Essentially, it's a way to track you. It's a way to identify you, just like scanning your computer's hardware configuration and giving you kind of a label based on your computer. Mix that with this, then hey, it's pretty easy to ascertain that Ben is Ben, even if you don't know it's actually Ben. And then you can even say beyond that if other people were able to pull the same kind of information, then let's say you visit a website that's being, that's partnered with Google, then that website could link you to Google's webpage, hidden webpage, and therefore serve you ads based on where you've been, even if you don't allow cookies or tracking or anything like that from that webpage. Really, it's a way around cookies. It really seems like what it is. So he found 6 separate pages pushing out his identifier after a single hour of looking on websites on Google's Chrome browser. The identifier contained the phrase Google Push, which was sent to at least 8 ad tech companies, saying that, quote, this practice is hidden in 2 ways. The most basic way is that Google creates a page that the user never sees. It's blank, has no content, but allows third parties to snoop on the user, and the user is none the wiser. He said, second, I have no idea this is happening. If I consulted my browser log, I wouldn't have had any idea either, which is the point, because you'd be able to check what cookies you have, who's tracking you, things like that. But no, this is held off your computer, away from you, but still completely about you. That's really the point. So with that being said, they said that Mr. Ryan's experiment was reproduced by ad tech analyst Zach Edwards, who runs technical consulting firm Victory Media, after being commissioned by Brave. He recruited hundreds of people to test Google's behavior over a month. They found that the identifier was indeed unique and was shared between multiple advertising companies to enhance their targeting abilities. Like I said, if they're working with Google, they can mix it all together and spit out that perfect algorithm, even if you're using blockers, even if you are thinking that you are being completely surreptitious, not so much. Google announced they would no longer share encrypted cookie IDs and bid requests with buyers on its authorized buyers marketplace. And, well, hey, that's where it runs afoul of its own rules, saying that they prohibit ad buyers from matching disparate profiles to the same user. So essentially they're saying Google, by their own rules, say that they would never take data from multiple ad agencies and mix them together, which we're seeing here. They completely do that. They said that the legal officer at Privacy International said Google had a dominant position in online advertising and that it should let users know what data the tracking identifier is collecting. Google needs to lead by example, he added. So essentially, you can see there, no possible way that this kind of thing is being legislated against, because this is new. If this tactic were to be outlawed or made illegal, or heck, even in this case, even if it is already against the rules and against their own rules, they can just go ahead and change it to put themselves back in accordance with it, but still get the same results. That's why technology is so hard to legislate. It's just not possible to think ahead of the tech people, because the tech people, if you put any kind of barrier, any kind of problem or any kind of checks and balances on them, they're going to find a way around it. They're going to find other ways to identify a user. And like I said, in this case, it's assigning them a web page, sending the data, streaming the data to that blank web page, and then sharing it among advertisers who then are able to collect the data and then better target you with ads. What comes of this? I don't know. Maybe Google might be hit with a fine in a little while. It looks like it has been verified a couple of times. Google themselves says that they wouldn't do this, but now they, of course, they do exactly that. And hey, we're going to have to wait and see what regulators, like we said, this whole thing came from the Irish Times. That's the website. And this is going to have to be upheld in the European court. So everyone, we'll be right back. More Computer America, and we will talk about, hey, a lot more. Everyone, stay tuned. More Computer America right after this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour, and everyone out there, thank you so much for checking us out. If you'd like, you can, of course, check us out at computeramerica.com, or if you miss any part of today's program, yesterday's program, any program, wherever podcasts are heard, and just, hey, search Computer America. We should come right up. And, hey, you can listen to today's show, yesterday's show, and all of your favorites. I always like saying that. So, everyone, welcome back into the program. We're doing a full hour of computer and technology news. Let's go ahead and continue on. Just wrapped up that article about Google and what it's doing. But, hey. Now, speaking about data and, potentially compromising things, this one from Wired. And I thought this was interesting because it really goes to show that one of the greatest forces in the natural world, and this is going to sound like a joke, but I mean this completely seriously. One of the greatest forces in the natural world is none other than internet sleuths. They can take the smallest, tiniest bit of information and really extract and extrapolate everything from it. It's insane, borderline illegal, and straight up scary what people can do when you get a group together in one chat room, in one Discord, in one place, and you really have some of the greatest and brightest minds of the internet, if that's not an oxymoron. So let's go ahead and talk about this one. This one from Wired. Trump tweeted a sensitive photo. Internet sleuths decoded it. There you go. Within hours of the president's post, amateur satellite trackers had hunted down the secret spy satellite that photographed a charred Iranian launch pad. Check that out. So they said that President Trump tweeted a photo of a charred launch pad at the Imam. Okay, I'm going to completely butcher this, but hey, we're going to power through this. The Imam Khomeini Space Center in Iran. There you go. Which had just experienced its third launch failure of the year. Iran's launch accident became public on Thursday after the satellite imaging company Planet released a photo that showed a thick black smoke wafting across the launch pad. There you go. Planet's photo is characteristic of most satellite images we have seen in public, slightly grainy with just enough detail to make out what you're looking at. But the image tweeted by Trump is highly detailed photograph from an intelligence briefing. You can easily see the Persian lettering around the launch pad, the struts of the tower, the steps on a staircase, and individual fence posts. Indeed, if you have gone to Google Earth, there is a certain level of, short of, kind of more populated areas. And, I'm sure that Google Earth saves some data by really not getting you within inches or feet of detail, but, 30, 40 meters into the air, just so they don't have to completely fine grain the entire planet. But the point is, this photo, which you can see if you're watching the video portion, there we go, which you can see if you're watching the video portion, is definitely very, very highly detailed. They said that and they have a quote here from a researcher at the James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies, and of course the first to share Planet's photo, with NPR, saying that when we saw the photo, we were kind of blown away. A president tweeting out national intelligence assets is a whole new level. Indeed. But it is interesting to see what, of course there is data and there is photos and, Google Earth and things like that show what us civilians see. And then it's very interesting to see the other side of the spectrum, which has intelligence and, national security and things like that. Much higher production value. Let's go ahead and say that. So for many outside experts, the only thing more intriguing than the president sharing sensitive military intelligence was the mystery of the technology that created the image. The photo's extremely high resolution suggested it was taken by a drone or high altitude plane, which would mean that Trump had tweeted proof that the U.S. was violating Iranian airspace. Alternatively, the photo could have been taken by a U.S. spy satellite, in which case Trump would have revealed that the image capacity of one of America's most advanced photo reconnaissance satellites. And yeah, hey, even if this wasn't the best that America has when it comes to data satellites, spy satellites, this is still pretty darn good. And, really, like they said, you can see all the way up to individual fence posts. Think like a chain link fence. You can see that highly detailed in this photo. It's not grainy whatsoever. So they said that within hours of Trump's tweet, a handful of amateur satellite trackers had not only determined that the photo was taken by a spy satellite, they had figured out which satellite had taken the photo, saying that the culprit was, drumroll please, USA 224, a classified National Reconnaissance Office satellite launched in 2011. Pretty interesting. This thing has been, been in the air for almost a decade now. Interesting. So it was believed to be a member of the KH-11 family of electro-optical surveillance satellites, which began to replace film-based surveillance satellites in the 1970s. Almost everything about the KH-11 satellite program is classified, but there are some clues about the design of the satellites, saying that they donated to NASA 2 space telescopes that were originally intended for reconnaissance and believed to be part of the KH-11 program. Each of the telescopes had a 7.9-foot mirror, which is the same size as the Hubble telescope. But unlike Hubble, these telescopes were meant to be pointed back at Earth, not away from it. And I actually recall that way back in 2011, or like 2012, 2013, when that story first broke. Well, actually, no, it was 2011 when that story broke. NASA was, of course, severely underfunded. Getting any kind of money into the agency was extremely hard. So when the military essentially donated 2 multi-million-dollar satellites or telescopes, it was a big deal. And they were making a big deal about, these things are as powerful, if not more powerful than the Hubble. It's going to greatly advance the realm of science and the images that we can take and things like that. But then you realize that the capability of these things is that you can actually zoom in all the way from low Earth orbit or wherever the heck these things are. You can actually zoom all the way in. And, hey, they said that they can reach roughly about 25 centimeters, and they can take pictures of a car's license plate from space. And that's very scary. So, the article even mentions that, saying that even in theory, KH-11 satellites outfitted with a 2.4 meter mirror, which is 7.9 foot, could snap photos with a resolution of about 10 centimeters. Saying, of course, that's pure speculation because the images from the satellites has always been classified. The only confirmed photos from a KH-11 satellite were leaked in 1984 by a Navy intelligence analyst who ended up serving 2 years in prison for espionage. So the fact that the last time this happened, the person responsible for the photo was thrown in jail. But we're not going to talk about the implications of that. We will say, though, that at 10 centimeters, or what is that, like 3 inches? Yeah, you'd be able to identify license plates from space. So they said that tracing the photo to a classified satellite was a masterclass in internet sleuthing. A journalist for the New York Times used the shadows in the photo to determine a 1-hour window in which the photo was taken. Michael Thompson, a graduate student in astrodynamics at Purdue University, pointed out that USA 224 was directly over the Iranian launch facility during the time frame identified by, the other researcher. They then used the initial observation to conduct a refined analysis that provided an exact location of the satellite at the time of the photo. So all of this, they have links to it all, and yeah, this is, like I said, one of the strongest forces in nature is this idea of complete boredom, complete and utter interest, and just people with too much time on their hands. But I can see where the intrigue comes from. So there you go. They said that since the article goes on a bit more, how they calculated it, where was it, things like that. So let's go ahead and just say that this is the first time in 3.5 decades that an image has become public that reveals the sophistication of U.S. spy satellites in orbit. Schmerler says that he doubts the photo unveils the full extent of U.S. optical surveillance capacity, and Bassa says only time will tell if it was a mistake to reveal the imagery. Still, one can imagine the frustration of the U.S. intelligence officials who worked on keeping the satellite secret for years. And of course, the president, he just felt like tweeting it out. So there you go. Something that was private and classified for 35 years is now revealed, or at least to some extent, because honestly, I don't think this is the full extent. I think this is a decent photo of what they wanted to show. This is not the extreme capabilities of the technology that they are using. So there you go. There's the article, and I think that's hopefully about all the data and privacy that we have. Let's go ahead and talk about... Okay. Galaxy Fold. This is a product that has been plagued with delays, cancellations. They completely scrapped the launch that they had earlier in the year, and now looks like, it looks like it could be rethinking the idea of a folded screen. Altogether, John Fingus, Engadget, Samsung cancels Galaxy Fold pre-orders to quote-unquote rethink the experience. Samsung may be on the cusp of launching the updated Galaxy Fold, but that isn't stopping the company from making last-minute changes to its launch plans. As YouTubers, writers, and others have discovered firsthand, Samsung is canceling all Galaxy Fold pre-orders from its online store in order to, quote, rethink the entire customer experience, ranging from the actual purchase through to after-sale support. This includes the just-announced Premier service that gives foldable phone buyers around-the-clock direct access to experts. There was some compensation, saying that pre-order customers will receive a $250 credit for the trouble. That's still less than thrilling if you're hoping to be the first on your block to own a Galaxy Fold, and you might not have much choice but to pre-register all over again if you're eager to restart the process. Now, you'll have to sit tight if you're hoping for a specific US release date. The Fold comes to South Korea on September 6th, so that's only in tomorrow, and the 18th in the UK, France, Germany, and Singapore, but America launch is only slated to take place in the coming weeks. Even if that's right around the corner, they say that potentially a September 27th release date, but I'll be honest. The update, for those of you who had not heard, the Galaxy Fold, people were saying that the screen was cracking, even with just normal use. It felt cheap. It felt very, very. I don't want to say not secure, but just not very well made. So what they went and did with the updated Galaxy Fold is that they reinforced the folding points and they reinforced the bend in the screen. And people have said that, of course, it added a bit of bulk, but they said it feels much, much better. So there you go. They've reinforced the Galaxy Fold. Now, with that being said, with bulk, hey, that's one thing, but as long as it continues to work and it feels good, it's going to be okay. So hey, maybe later this month we'll finally see the Galaxy Fold actually, be released. Let's go ahead and continue on here. How about we talk about football stadiums? Because we've been talking a while about 5G, despite the rumors, which are completely unfounded, that 5G might cause cancer and things like that. One of the real drawbacks to 5G is the fact that, well, it just doesn't go very far, because the wavelength is actually much. Oh, every physics teacher out there is going to yell at me. I'm going to say tighter, but there's more energy packed into the wavelength. That means that it just does not penetrate walls and obstructions as well as 4G does, and not even as well as 3G does. So if you compare the two, if you are equal distance away from a 5G, a 4G, and a 3G hotspot, you might actually get better speeds at 3G than you would 4G than you would 5G. There's a best use case for every one of these. Although, of course, the best top-end result is going to come with 5G when you're able to upload and download at 10 gigabits per second. That's a whole heap of data. And, well, looks like we may have a first use case that actually makes sense with this kind of thing. And it's Verizon is going to bring 5G coverage to 13 football stadiums as the NFL season begins. That's right. Saying that home of the Broncos, Seahawks, Patriots are among the studios included in the rollout. Now, here's the thing. If you're actually looking for a true blue 5G experience, because a lot of other standards and, updates like this, sometimes we say, even though the stream is going to be in 4K, you're still going to be able to, it's still going to look better for you. If you have older technology, it's an upgrade for everyone. No, if you don't have 5G on your phone, and right now I think the only phone with true 5G capability is like one from LG and I think one from Samsung. No other phone out there on the market currently has 5G capabilities. So if you have, just your old phone from like a year ago, and I say old, just a year old is not that old. But if you have an older phone, you won't be able to take advantage of this. So it really doesn't affect you. But for those of you who are let's see. I'm just going to list this off by the team names. If you happen to be near any of these, the stadiums of the Carolina Panthers, Denver Broncos, Seattle Seahawks, Detroit Lions, New England Patriots, Miami Dolphins, Indianapolis Colts, New York Giants, and New York Jets, Baltimore Ravens, Houston Texans, the Houston Texans, Chicago Bears, and the Minnesota Vikings, then you will have access to 5G at the start of the NFL season. So, in July, Verizon expanded its 5G network to include parts of Atlanta, Detroit, Indianapolis, Washington, D.C. Here's the point. 5G is coming. It's probably going to be a slower rollout than even 4G and 4G LTE, because we kind of remember that those happened over the course of 2-3 years, and by the time most everyone who's going to get it pretty much had it. 5G is going to be even harder because you really need to be up close and personal, like within a football stadium, to really get the full effects of a 5G antenna. You would need, I think, something like 4 times the coverage or 4 times the antennas to get the same coverage as you would for 5G, as you would 4G. And when you think about, private residential neighborhoods or even downtown, actually finding the space and the room to put that many towers, not a lot of people are going to look forward to that much hardware being installed on every street corner. So there you go. And hey, so congratulations to everyone out there who's going to be blazing fast with 5G if you can actually get a phone that will support it. Let's go ahead and talk about okay, something on the show that we haven't talked about lately. Let's discuss the Department of Energy. Light bulbs. Light bulbs are really, when it comes to technology, light bulbs is one of those things that a couple of years ago we were seeing leaps and bounds. We went from incandescent to compact fluorescent to LED, and now we're pretty much at, LEDs. They are the gold standard for efficiency, for energy consumption, and for brightness and variability. LEDs have it all. They're great. The only thing that they don't have is cost. Although, to be fair, LEDs have really come down in price. Now, here we go. Saying that the DOE have decided many light bulbs don't have to meet efficiency standards. So, hey, another Obama-era standard getting gutted despite resistance from some utilities. Despite what we're about to talk about, and despite the Department of Energy tweaking its standards and its necessity for efficiency, even so, we here on Computer America, and really just, hey, myself as a person, you're going to want efficiency for a number of reasons. Even if light bulbs are going to start coming onto the shelf that are less efficient, that are cheaper in the short term, the long term is really going to benefit you to put up those extra couple of dollars to save tens or hundreds of dollars over the life of that light bulb. So just keep that in mind. Now, among the stranger subjects that have been caught up in the political wars raging in the United States, the lowly light bulb. Back with George W. Bush, the law was passed that set efficiency standards for a variety of light bulbs that allowed the Department of Energy to expand the standards going forward. Almost immediately afterward, legislators who apparently find efficiency a threat to the American way of life had second thoughts, and they started to undermine the law's implementation. As a result, the first real evaluation and updates of the standards didn't take place until late into Obama's second term. Now, the Trump administration has officially thrown out the results of the work done by the Obama's DOE and has issued a rule that prevents these standards from applying to a variety of bulbs. Again, go with LED. You won't regret it. LEDs are great. Go for it. Now, with that being said, just glossing through the article, lawsuits are already being filed to challenge this kind of thing. But let's get into the meat of what's happened. They said that the 2017 rules had required a number of additional lighting types to meet efficiency standards, including three-way bulbs, various types of bulbs used in construction and industrial settings, smaller bulbs such as those used in a candelabra-style fixture, and high-output lamps, saying that the new rules issued by the Trump administration, none of these would be regulated. So in doing so, the administration is specifically following the wishes of various light bulb manufacturers who presumably still have viable production facilities dedicated to churning out incandescents. And really that's the point, is that we are moving away from the strides that we had with compact fluorescent, which are not as efficient as LED, but they are still light years ahead, and, well, at least lights ahead of incandescents. Compact fluorescents are actually very, very efficient. Not as efficient, but they're good. We have an alternative for this technology, but it looks like we are quickly going back to a time when we can once again utilize this lesser technology. Now, they said that opposing the changes were a collection of state attorney generals, environmental organizations, and a few electrical utilities, saying that the latter are from California, which set aggressive renewable production targets that will be easier to hit if electricity usage continues to drop. And, that's actually something very interesting. When you privatize and essentially you have for-profit electrical companies, their goals aren't to help people conserve. Their goals aren't to help people not use less electricity. Their goal is to provide more electricity so they can charge people more and they can produce more. But that doesn't seem to be the case in California, who, as I said, sets aggressive renewable production target. The DOE's logic in supporting this decision can be a bit tough to follow, even though the Department of Energy followed the law and reevaluated the efficiency standards. They claim that its secretary never made the official determination that the standards needed to be amended. In the absence of that determination, there is no requirement that it modify the standards by any specific date, even though the standards have already been modified. So they're saying that they're allowed to go backwards because, well, I guess as they said, they never made, the Secretary of the Department of Energy never made the official determination that they needed to be amended. I guess he kind of just directed that they change them, but he never, I guess, actually said that they needed to be amended. Now, separately, the groups objecting to the decision note that the law indicates that the Department of Energy shouldn't drop any efficiency standards below 45 lumens per watt. By excluding these bulbs, they argue the DOE is essentially setting the standard to 0. But the DOE counters that, saying that it's only determining if the bulbs are subject to standards, not actually setting any. You think that an organization such as the Department of Energy would have set some standards on, well, energy consumption. But I guess that's, as they see it, not really their job. Now, as we said, lawsuits are coming, but it's worth taking a step back and looking at the big picture again as the article kind of wraps up here. The original legislation appears to have been well designed and successful. LED bulbs are now inexpensive, abundant, and remain long-lived and efficient. Yet, due to lingering animosity towards the existence of any standards at all, the current administration is doing its best to keep the legislation from being used to regulate hardware it was obviously intended for. So, there you go. LEDs, they were really doing well, and now looks like, if you want, we can take a major step back and do incandescents. Hey, that's what you want. And of course, Big Girl in the chat room mentioning that she can never find the light bulb that she wants, and that's a whole separate issue. That's an issue of really finding the right light bulb is kind of like finding the right shoe. And unfortunately, as far as we have come as a society when it comes to shopping online, yeah, you can buy shoes online. Yeah, you can have them delivered to the house. Yeah, you can try them on. And if you don't like them, put them back in the box, put on the shipping return label, and return it for free. But hey, isn't it so much easier to just go into the store, try on your shoes, and walk out? That's about where we're at with light bulbs. And Hey, light bulbs are one of those things that are mass produced in China. We have completely conceded the light bulb manufacturing process to China, so our market is flooded with the lowest quality, lowest standard light bulbs. If you want, this is just a personal recommendation. There are Internet of Things light bulbs, internet connected light bulbs, which may seem a little extreme. They can cost anywhere from $40, $50, $60, $70, $80 per light bulb. I would put those in, kind of designated lamps and light fixtures. Not every bulb in your house needs to be one, but if you're looking for a specific bulb, it's going to cost you a bit more. It's going to be expensive, and hey, it's not going to be easy. So, hey, maybe we could have a whole show about light bulbs. Light bulbs are actually a very interesting topic, and I really do like talking about them. So everyone, music in the background means that we're done. Join us tomorrow on the program as we continue on with Computer America. And I think if all is set, next week is Ralph Bond. Tomorrow we have a new Computer America for you. Same time, same place, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you. We'll catch you next time. Bye, everyone.